Hey, what's going on, guys? This is JD Moon, and I'm coming at you guys with a build video for Diablo 3. This is going to be my first one today. I've got a Crusader build coming out for you guys, and then I've also got my ESO builds that I'm going to be releasing today as well. So on this particular build, this is going to be my Herald of Death. It is my Necromancer. I've got her all specced out and looking badass. Anyways, so this build does have the potential to do really high grader rifts. I just need to finish farming the ancient weapons and things like that and start augmenting things. But so I went really dotty with this setup. I took some a previous build that was made on season 13, and I started adjusting it and started adding in different things. The one thing I didn't like about the previous build was that it completely circulated around having frozen lands up at all times, and I felt that that was kind of monotonous. It was annoying from time to time because, like, if you came up against an elite pack, you just were lacking damage, and you just weren't able to take them out unless you had frozen lands out, so you could just sit there and spear over and over and over again. So I went really dotty with this one. I really like it. I've been enjoying the hell out of it. So I haven't seen anybody jack with the dots on Necromancer, and I don't understand why, because you have access to the highest poison damage in the game. So aside from, I believe Witch Doctor's got quite a bit of poison damage as well. So I mean, I just don't see why you wouldn't want to try and run a dot build on a Necro. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive into what I have on for gear. So I am running the Inarius set. What this set does is going to give us a 2-piece bonus that increases our bone armor damage by 1,000. 4-piece bonus is going to grant us 2 additional damage reduction per enemy hit. Now these are in the form of stacks without having... I forget the name of it, but it's in my cube. There's a specific amulet that allows you to get 5 more stacks on your bone armor, which is going to give you a total damage reduction of 30% at max stacks. On our 6-piece armor, our 6-piece bonus is bone armor is also going to activate a swirling tornado of bone, damaging nearby enemies for 1,000 weapon damage and increasing the damage they take from the Necromancer by 3,750%. Now this is going to be really huge, and all this stuff that we have on this setup is going to synergize with that. Now for our 2-piece jewelry set that we have, we're running the Traveler's Pledge. What that's going to do is, on a 2-piece, while moving, our damage reduction is increased up to 50%, and then while standing still, our damage is increased up to 100% over time as we stand still. Now, for our belt, we are running Dainty's Binding. What that's going to do is, whenever we throw down this curse here, okay, it's going to, any enemy that has that curse on them, it will reduce the damage that we have coming in by 45%. At max, it's 50. Now, for our other jewelry piece, we're going to be running Lorinel's Sunstone. It's going to be really important with this setup because this setup's going to be a very much sit in the fight and hit shit, you know, do damage, keep putting dots down. That's going to be really important with this. And so what the Sunstone's going to do is, for each 1% life we have missing, it's going to increase our damage reduction by 0.92%. At max, it's 1%. So now for the traits that we want, our primary traits that we're going to want ideally on the helm is going to be intelligence, armor, and crit damage increase. On our shoulders, ideally we would want cooldown reduction, but chance to deal area damage on hits fine for now, but you do want intelligence, vitality, and armor on those pieces at all times. Now on our gloves, ideally we would want intelligence, either vitality or armor, crit chance, and then we want crit damage increase percentage as well. For our secondary attributes on all these, we're always going to want physical resistance if you can get it. But always make sure your primaries are taken first because they're the most important. On our chest piece, we want intelligence, vitality, and armor always. Our secondary will always want that to be as well physical damage reduction. On our belt, we definitely want intelligence, vitality, armor. Now, the 4th trait on the belts, kind of, you can change it up. I would prefer to have either Grim Scythe damage increase on this one. If you didn't want to go cooldown reduction on the shoulders, you could also go bone armor damage increase, which will increase a lot of your damage. So either that or cooldown reduction are going to be the most important for the primary on the shoulders. Now for the pants, we're going to want intelligence, vitality, and armor, as well as physical resistance on the secondary. And then for our boots, we want intelligence, vitality, armor, and 10% movement speed. And then for our weapon, I am running the Rilana Shadow Hook. What that does is it increases our damage by 0.5% for each amount of max essence that we have. So we have 329 max essence, so that's going to increase our damage by quite a bit. Now going on to the bracers, I've got Ancient Parthian Defenders. What this is going to do is for each enemy that's stunned in the area, it's going to reduce our damage taken by 12%. At max, it's 15% per enemy that's stunned. So this is going to be really important. Now on the bracers, you definitely want poison damage increase, as well as crit damage increase, intelligence, vitality, or armor. Okay. And then with the Traveler's Pledge, you're going to want intelligence, poison damage, critical hit damage increase up to 100% if you can, and then life on hit are going to be your main specs. If you can't get all 4 of those with a socket, then always go for the crit chance, intelligence, and the poison damage increase. All right, now moving on a little bit, we're going to dive into what we have in the sockets. So on the sockets for the helm, you definitely want the diamond to get the reduced ability cooldown by 12.5%. I was jacking around with having intelligence in my sockets for the chest and the leg piece, and I was finding that I was way too squishy. So I went for the vitality, and I'm really liking the synergy between the vitality and the Lorinel's Sunstone. It works out very well, and I really, really like that synergy on those pieces. Now for the socket in the amulet, I've got Myrne, the Teardrop of the Starweaver. Now this is going to be where a lot of our damage is coming from. It synergizes really good with bone armor and the Inarius set. As a matter of fact, this is the only build that this gem is even good on. And the reason why is because as our bone armor is swirling around us, it's constantly dealing damage, which gives us a chance to proc our Myrnes all the time. As well as once you hit 25 on the Myrnes, once you get to rank 25, it's gonna smite somebody every 3 seconds regardless, as well as smiting with that 15% proc chance. Now for our gem that we have in the Lorinel's Sunstone, we're gonna be run a gem of Infectious Toxin. I did run Bane of the Trapped, and I'm actually liking this gem of Infectious Toxin better. It's going to reduce the damage that we have coming in, as well as increase our damage by 10% on all the enemies that are poisoned in the area. Now, what's really cool with the synergy and the Inarius set with this is that our Swirling of Bones also poisons everything in the area, which applies another dot, doing 4,600 percent weapon damage over 10 seconds. So they're constantly taking that pressure as well as the Myrne's pressure. And then we're also going to be running the Pain Enhancer, which is also going to be getting activated by that Swirling Tornado. So we're also going to be doing the 5,350% weapon damage as a bleed it's going to be physical over 3 seconds. Now that's going to be hitting really, really hard. But it's also going to be granting us attack speed for each enemy that's got that dot on them as well. So our attack speed's going up. We're doing constant pressure damage with these 2 stones, and then the Myrnes is just nuking things, just boof, boof, boof. So let's jump into skills real quick. Actually, before we go to skills, I'm going to go run over here to the cube. Sorry, I'm zoomed in, so I can't find it. Here we go. So in the cube, we're going to be running Tragules. What this is going to do is it's going to synergize really, really well with our Grim Scythe. It's going to make it give a curse every time we hit somebody with this. So this is an AoE, so anytime we attack anything in the area with this, it's going to be cursing them. So that's going to be really good with Tragules, as well as increasing our damage to each enemy that has a curse on them by 200%. So this is really, really strong, and it synergizes really good with the Shadow Hook. I did find that this particular scythe right here is actually going to give you more damage in the long run if you're running 5 poison spells on your bar, because it's essentially going to be increasing your damage to everything by 500%. But it does have, they only last for 15 seconds, and some of the cooldowns of the abilities that we're using are just too long, and it's just too monotonous to keep it up, so I just don't even bother with it. If you can actually keep it up at 5 stacks at all times, you're going to be able to put out the highest damage output with this build that you can potentially get. Now, we are running Aquila Curus as our armor piece in the cube. That's going to give us a 50% damage reduction, while over 90% primary resource. The only thing that uses resource is going to be our Frailty Curse, and that only costs 9... that only costs 9 essence anyways, so we're constantly going to be over 90%, so there's no reason not to run that. Now, we are going to be running Wisdom of Kalan. That's going to increase our stacks on our bone armor, which is going to reduce the amount of damage that we're taking and give us up to 15 stacks on the bone armor, so it's going to reduce that damage by 30% at full stacks. So now let's go ahead and dive into where I've got my Paragon. So when we're starting out with our Paragon, the things that we want to go for first, since area damage really is a big thing, especially with Mirrornays, we want to definitely spec into area damage first. You can go into cost reduction. I prefer life on hit because we don't really have anything that we need to worry about cost reduction with, because the only thing we're using is, like I said, that costs anything is going to be our curse. So I would go life on hit, then cost reduction, then gold fine. Defensive, you want armor first, life percentage, resist all, then life regen next. On offense, you're going to want to go into cooldown reduction will be first, depending on what your stats are looking at on your gear for your primary stats. Will determine whether or not you're going critical chance first or critical hit damage. Since I always make sure I have my crit hit chance up high, I always go for critical hit damage first, then crit chance, then attack speed. On our core build, we want 50 into this unless you've already achieved 25% movement speed, because that's the max. Then you can take these 50 points out and put them into either intelligence or vitality. But you want 50 points into maximum essence. It's going to increase the damage on our shadow hook, so we definitely want that. And then we're going to go 50 into intelligence, 50 into vitality, and then do a 50-50 split over and over and over again. And you'll find that the synergy with vitality and the Lornell Sunstone is really, really important, so make sure that you have those up at all times. Now, what I want to do is I want to run a rift for you guys and kind of show you what to look at whenever you're running the setup. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into the rift. Give me just a couple of moments here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, so we're going to get ready to run a rift here in just a second. Now, I want to remind you guys I am running on Torment 13, and I'm doing it with relative ease, so that's how I know that this build is going to be able to hit really high rifts, because I literally just walk right through here. So I'm going to kind of give you guys a play-by-play on how you're going to start your rifts and how you're going to run these rifts. So let's go ahead and first things first, let me go and get rid of this junk here. Alright, so we're going to just jump into a regular rift. This is on Torment 13. There we go.
Brave the rift, and you will be well rewarded.
So the first thing you want to do is you want to try and get as many stacks as you can on your bone armor right out the gate. You see how much damage I'm taking by not having this. So now that we're going to have this at So as you can see, look at the pressure that we're just applying just with the pass. See how much damage they're taking just by passive damage? That's just our poison damage and also the chance to bleed.
An interesting opponent. I require a corpse for that.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these guys back because I don't have a heal up. So we can just go ahead and nuke them real quick.
I must have a corpse.
As you can see, just applies really good pressure just with your light attacks. And so the ultimate goal of this build was that I don't want to always have to use Plague Lands.
I'm afraid
to get my
not.
kills. You see what I'm saying? So it gives you the ability just to be able to stand up in a fight with elites and just do constant pressure.
All must serve the cycle. That is not possible.
Now with this build, you're always going to want to make sure to have a two-hand. And that's because a lot of this is going to be based off of and so we're going to see
Your death nears. Give it more time.
So what's really cool is that as we get low, if you notice them, we just start taking damage.
All must serve the cycle. I might have a call.
What I really liked about this setup was the previous build was originally released. I mean, since we weren't able to use another curse other than Strepify, which was really kind of annoying when Necromancer first came out. But now we can use any curse with Dainty's Binding, which is really good, whereas
The night embraces you.
Now, as you start getting like ancient pieces and stuff like that, you'll see your damage go up quite a bit. Keep in mind, I don't have anything augmented, and also on this particular setup, we don't have hardly any ancients.
That is not possible.
So the objective is that you want to try and get up to being able to farm 400 as possible. So you can start trying to farm for your ancients.
That needs to recharge.
Stop hitting me back.
That is not possible.
See, I like it. It works really, really well. Just allows us to keep pressure constantly.
That needs to recharge. will be a challenge. You will make a fine corpse. I'm afraid my health was restored.
So it still goes along with the same general concept of using goes with the same general concept. Except instead of using frozen lands, we're using the plague lands to big group. Like let's say if we're fighting an elite and there's a bunch of ads around them, then it'll give us the ability to kill them and
This world can abide you no longer. That is not possible. Give it more time. Beckons. That is not possible. I must have a corpse. That is not possible. I require a corpse for that. I'm afraid not. I require a corpse for that. That needs to recharge. That needs to recharge.
The Rift Guardian has arrived.
No. I require a corpse for that. That needs to recharge.
and that's how you do it.
I am returning to
All right,
town.
so that's basically it. So I mean, I really like the pressure that's applied. The last problem I was seeing with the original build was that when it came down to it, and you didn't have a frozen lands up, you were screwed. So, and then if you were, you know, fighting
Have
a
you spoken
big
to Art?
amount of monsters,
yet.
you were still having
What
the
does
same
one
problem.
say to
So
an
with this
ancient
one,
Nephilim
I wanted to
ghost?
give access
I
to constant
suppose
pressure,
start
being able to
with
kill a lot of
hello.
smaller mobs, as well as doing constant pressure to the bigger bosses as well. So I hope you guys enjoy the build. So yeah, have fun with the Herald of Death, and I will see you guys out there on the battlefield. Thanks for watching.